Happy New Year. I got a new Q&A for the new year. I am fighting a mean cold like I imagine majority of you are after this holiday week also. It doesn't matter. We go on. Let's crack right into it. Haven't watched any college basketball this year. Which team should I watch for fun? Feels like January is when majority of the country and sports fans start to actually flock to college basketball. A lot of us sickos have been here since November. We're here all year long. Conference play is underway. It's freezing damn cold outside. Saturdays are absolutely loaded with big games. And March is really close, so I fully get it. I would direct people to start with the nation's best teams, all those top 25 matchups that you're going to see in the big conferences, because that gives you a good barometer for what the best quality or the best perceived quality in the country is at the moment. But for pure enjoyment, I'd probably go to the SEC. I think teams like Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, a lot of those offensive, fast-paced, exciting, athletic teams are great to watch. Don't get me wrong, there are a ton of fun teams and leagues. I'd also add the Mountain West because the style and level is that of a power conference, right? It's really good. And they also play late night. They play on Friday nights, so times that maybe a lot of other big schools aren't playing at. How big is the gap between Duke and the rest of the ACC? How many more Duke losses this year? The gap is definitely massive. When you look at the ACC with Carolina drastically underperforming, you got Pitt, Clemson, and maybe a team like Louisville kind of next up. The ACC, even with their March success in the last few years, really hasn't been that strong at all. Say that again, even though they have 2 or 3 teams that win in March, it doesn't mean that all 16, 17 teams are good. Duke is 100% the only clear national contender from the ACC. Cooper's playing better than ever. Their defense is one of the best, if not the best in the country. The offense and shooting is there. They're big. They're athletic. They will lose at some point in ACC play. The conference isn't that bad, and everyone drops games at some point. But I'd be pretty confident they're going to lose maybe max 1 or 2 on their way to getting a 1 seed, 100%. Speaking of UNC, does UNC continue to start Ian Jackson when Seth Trimble comes back? Let's focus on that one positive here, because Ian Jackson has been absolutely unbelievable. And as a freshman, you're seeing him kind of grow and get better and develop in the year. He's a really explosive, athletic, talented scoring guard that they don't have elsewhere in their backcourt. I think Seth Trimble plays too big and too important of a role to not start or at least play those starting minutes. But at this point, why not experiment with different rotations? I do think Ian Jackson being that 6th man and giving that big spark off the bench definitely has value. They've been toying around with the front court. You can move Drake Powell back to the bench. You can make Elliot Cadeau the 6th man and see how he does leading that second unit. The real problem with Carolina, though, isn't in the rotations. It's their lack of scheme, style, and identity. They are so talented in the backcourt, and they don't have any front court. Hubert Davis knows that, and he's trying to just let his guys go win through talent and let those guards just go hoop and basically play pickup ball. Majority of their offensive possessions, they're not running any sets. There's minimal off-ball movement, if any at all. You got 4 guys on the perimeter. You have 1 forward or big down low, and they're doing a lot of dribble drives and iso ball, and that's just not going to work. Is Johni Broome the best player in college basketball? Absolutely, without a doubt. Not only is he producing and performing the highest and as the best player in the country, but he is legitimately the best player in the country right now. Always been a good scorer, especially down low. His shot was there last year. It's there this year from 3. He's a good defender and shot blocker, and he's taken a huge leap as a playmaker, which I think being that point big and point forward at times for Auburn has really made their offense more versatile and more dynamic. I still think about this play from the Mizzou game, like absolutely disgusting cross-court skip pass to get it to Chad Baker-Mazara for the 4-point play, but he knew that was going to be 3 when that ball got out of his hands and he was already walking back for defense. So who are your top 5 right now for the Wooden Award? Johni Broome is obviously number 1. I have Cam Jones at number 2 and Cooper Flagg at number 3, but I think that gap is closing if it's not closed already, and I think Cooper might take that leap to number 2 at some point. Then I go Chaz Lanier, Mark Sears, and Keyshawn Gilbert at Iowa State all next up in the race, and they're definitely all going to be All-Americans without a doubt. And then you can throw in a bunch of guys after that. Eric Dixon's been awesome. Dylan Harper, PJ Haggerty, Walter Clayton, Josh Hubbard. Who's the one player in the country you'd want on your team come tournament time? A different take than the best player in the country. I would usually go towards a guard. It's hard not to say Johni Broome, though, because he has been that good. Like, he's been just as good, maybe close to it at least, as Zach Edey was the last year and the last couple of years. Cam Jones making the playmaking jump that he's made this year makes me very confident and feel very comfortable and safe with him. But after the last couple of years, especially March in last year, my gut tells me to say Mark Sears. He has the ability, the confidence, the swagger, and we saw it in March in their tournament run to the Final Four last year. He steps up in those big moments. He does that time and time again, so my gut says Mark Sears. Can the SEC be a 10-plus bid league, must-watch TV every night of conference play? Let's go through all the teams to see if they can get 10 bids. Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Kentucky is 6. Florida is 7. Those are basically all locks to me. Oklahoma, Ole Miss are probably going to get in. That's 9. Arkansas is probably in right now. That would be 10. Georgia would be in right now. That would be 11. Texas, Missouri are right there. They're not going to get 13 teams in. The absolute bottom barrel floor is probably 8, and the peak is going to be 12. So 10 is probably the sweet spot. I just gave you like 12 or 13 tournament caliber teams, but there's going to be cannibalism when all these good teams are playing each other, because that is basically the entire conference. Are there any mid-major conferences you can see getting more than one bid? Mountain West is for sure going to have 2, if not 3 or 4 teams. San Diego State, Boise State, Utah State are probably all good. Nevada is probably falling off a little bit. New Mexico is right there. WCC has work to do outside of Gonzaga, but St. Mary's, Wazoo, and San Francisco are all like right there. I'd probably say St. Mary's might be just in right now, so I would bet that they're probably going to get 2 in. The A10 is going to be interesting. They 100% can get 2, maybe 3 teams in, but they're going to need Dayton and or VCU to basically really be strong the entire rest of the way, and then someone else is going to have to win the conference tournament to get 2 teams in there. AAC definitely can, but they're probably going to need Memphis to be good, but then lose in the conference tournament final. North Texas is there, but I think it still would require Memphis to get all the way there and then lose. Now that Drake is starting to lose games, the 2-bid MVC is looking a little slim, a little dark, sadly. Drake and Bradley are still awesome teams, I think. On paper and like watching them, they're tournament caliber teams. This happened last year with Drake and Indiana State. Indiana State was seen as the better team and the better resume to get an at-large bid, have enough of those big games on their resume. So when the tournament came, Drake won the MVC tournament, they got in, and then Indiana State was one of the top teams in the NIT and ended up going to the finals. So I could see something very similar happening this year with Bradley and Drake. There's a little bit of hope for the Big West with UC San Diego and UC Irvine. I think they're both very good teams. You just really can't slip up basically at all besides against each other. And then there's a wild long shot for Conference USA. They would need Liberty to basically win every single game until the CUSA tournament final and then lose to whoever would be that second team. Who's the best team in college basketball and why is it Iowa State? I would personally say that Auburn, Iowa State, and Duke have separated themselves. For me, a complete opinionated take at this, those 3 have separated themselves as the best teams in the country. I think Tennessee and Marquette are right behind. I know the Tennessee fans are not going to be happy hearing that because they're undefeated. They are an unbelievable team, but those 3 teams that I named have played tougher schedules. They've played each other and they've beaten a couple of the other elite teams in the country. Tennessee hasn't yet. They will, of course, in the SEC, but I want to see them kick the shit out of a Kentucky or an Auburn or something like that to really prove that. How is Iowa State still so good? Even though Tamin Lipsey is having a down year, I point to Keyshawn Gilbert and Curtis Jones making huge strides and having those breakout seasons this year. Now, this is both of their second years in the program. Last year was their first year after transferring in from UNLV and Buffalo, 2 mid-major teams that play different styles. They play at a lower level, so it takes time to adjust. I think that's a really great example of not only experience, but roster continuity and returning that experience from within your program. Not only allowed Tamin Lipsey to play a different role and a more refined role and not have to push his production past his capabilities and become inefficient. And it's also allowed their offense to just improve. Last year, at the end of the season, they finished outside the top 50 in offense, but they were the number 1 defense in the country. Now this year, being more reliant on more guards and more high-level players, they're top 10 in offense and defense. They play at a faster pace. They have a more dynamic offense. They were never going to win a national title last year, and they probably weren't going to get to a Final Four, but now with a better offense and a more balanced team going both ways, they can 100% win a national title this year. Are you going to cover Utah State's potential back-to-back dream seasons with 2 different head coaches? The Utah State fans are always in my comments and replies. I love that. I respect that. We're going to talk about them. I don't know what it is about Utah State basketball finding brand new coaches and being amazing right away in year 1. 14-1 this year. They have wins over San Diego State, Nevada, St. Mary's, Iowa, North Texas, St. Bonaventure, and their only loss is to an actually good UC San Diego team. That's all after Danny Sprinkle and their entire program last year left after a historic season. But Jared Calhoun is their 4th coach in 7 years. Craig Smith took the job in 2018. He took Utah State to their first tournament appearance in a decade, and then he got the Utah job. They hired Ryan Odom from the legendary UMBC team. He gets to the tournament and wins 26 games in year 2. Then he takes the VCU job. Then they hired Danny Sprinkle from Montana State, who came in last year. They had a historic 28-win season. They won a tournament game, and then he went to Washington, which opened up the current job for Jared Calhoun. Coming from Youngstown State, they're 14-1. They're on a pretty damn good path to get to the tournament again. I don't know if it's the athletic administration staff and how they hire and find these mid-major coaches, or if it's just like something in the water in Logan, Utah. But Utah State is good again, and it seems like they do this every single year. Got a lot of questions again about the Big Ten in March. Who can get to the Final Four? Who can win the national title? Generally speaking, I would never take my chances betting on the Big Ten in general winning in March. It just hasn't happened. But teams who can get to a Final Four and can win a national title, it always depends on your path and your matchups. Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, Maryland, Oregon, UCLA, Michigan, I think all have the potential to get to a Final Four depending on how the rest of the season goes. I think they'd basically all be seen as dark horses unless maybe Michigan State kind of keeps winning out, or Illinois. I don't think any of them can win a national title. I'd say Michigan State and Illinois would be the closest, but Michigan State is inconsistent shooting the three. Illinois' defense isn't good enough. UCLA's offense isn't consistent enough. Doesn't mean that these Big Ten teams can't win in March. It just means that I think it's going to be tough. Speaking of Michigan, Michigan's turnover problem, how far do you see them going in March or the Big Ten with that? I think it is an issue closing out games for sure. But in general, one of the things that I always look at when I'm filling out my bracket or just looking at teams performing in the postseason in March is turnover margin, especially in upsets. Teams that have a negative turnover margin and don't do well controlling the ball are very, very susceptible to upsets. See it every year. There are always these smaller teams or dark horse teams that have blisteringly good defense and can make a bigger favorite's life an absolute living hell. Even if they do other things well, like shoot the three and rebound, like it gets completely taken away because you're uncomfortable because you're turning the ball over all the time. But to be fair, it is part of their style. They play very aggressive. They have two bigs, one of them who is a 7-foot point guard, and the amount that they attack the rim, especially through a big guy like that, even though Danny Wolf can handle the ball well, you're going to turn the ball over more. It is just at an alarming rate right now. Speaking of Danny Wolf, can he be an NBA player? Without a doubt, 100%. Danny Wolf should be an NBA player at the end of the season. He's one of the best all-around bigs and one of the best all-around players in the draft, in the country. People are going to get caught up on the athleticism, the age, the speed. Versatility in a big like him is rare. He is a very, very good handler of the ball. He's smart. He has great playmaking vision. He can shoot the ball. His defending has improved a lot and gotten really solid. And this is his first year playing at such a high level and being able to prove that. So like I mentioned, for a guy like Dalton Connect last year, in his first year in the power level, I think there's still room for Danny Wolf to grow, especially with a professional organization. You were Marty McFly, or I guess Biff Tannen. You came from the future. You told me right now that Danny Wolf's going to be a lottery pick or a top 20 pick in June. I would 100% believe you. I look at a guy like Derek Queen, who I love. I get he's younger. He's more athletic. There's more upside to him. But I see a lot of similarities in these two guys, so I don't know why Danny Wolf doesn't get the pro NBA love that other guys do. Favorite backcourt in the nation to watch right now? It's a tough question. It's not the best backcourt. It's favorite to watch. Iowa State's backcourt is super fun. I love watching Alabama's backcourt, especially Mark Sears and LeBaron Philon. Most fun and most enjoyable, I'd probably go Illinois. Kasparis Yakushionis and Kylan Boswell are so much fun to watch. They're both new to the program. AJ is so crafty. He's playing like a top 3 to 5 pick. The swagger he plays at, like if you go watch some of the passes and plays he was making in that Oregon game at a number 10 team in the country and that ass kicking, he's the offensive engine. And then you've got Kylan Boswell, who is also a great generator and playmaker, but he's the second option offensively to kind of balance KJ out a little bit. And he's an unbelievable defender. They both play with fire, and they're both playing really well right now, and they are going to control Illinois' fate for sure. Are you for or against more casual attire for coaches on the sidelines, wearing a hoodie versus a suit? I'm not a stickler at all. If it was my choice, if I was a coach, I would wear a team-branded hoodie, Lululemon joggers that are kind of matching, and a pair of Dunks or Nikes or something like that. I get that people are traditional. They wear suits. Like Jay Wright used to wear a 3-piece suit. He killed it. I'm not going to lie. He killed it. He looked great. But being a basketball coach is a mobile job. Like, it can be physically taxing. As Bruce Pearl, who, if you look at him now, he started to wear like quarter zips and polos through the year. I think maybe with age, you also flex towards comfort a little more. But he used to wear suits and drip through them. But to people that say like, oh, college coaches, they have to wear suits. They got to look good. Like, who cares? Who cares? All right, let them wear what they're comfortable in and wear what they like. And I'll end with a personal question that I do very much appreciate. What inspired you to start doing all of this? In the late 2000s, I was probably in like 6th, 7th grade-ish. My oldest brother, who's 8 years older than I am, had just started going to college. He was going to Maryland, so I would go visit him, and we would go watch Maryland ACC basketball games, Grievous Vasquez, and at the same time, you got guys like Steph Curry and Jimmer and a million different amazing legends in the college game establishing themselves. I fell in love with the idea of mid-majors and Cinderellas and just the sport in general. And content-wise, I started making content a few years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. I was honestly doing a lot of different sports stuff. I don't think people know that. I was doing like NFL contracts and off-season trade packages and financial stuff also with college basketball and NBA draft. But I was always going to focus on basketball, especially the college game. It's a passion of mine. Appreciate y'all for being here. That's going to do it for this one. If you're not subscribed here on YouTube, I just do it. Like I don't really know what else to tell you. Just hit that subscribe button. It's not really going to kill you. It's not going to do anything. And just to let you know, March is less than 2 months away. So buckle up.